Dr. Heath, my week is always made brighter by your psychological cherries, which adorn my proverbial cake. How are you today?
I'm great, and my week would not be complete without a Johnny Vedmore interview. So I'm just happy to be here on a day or two before Father's Day.
Indeed, Father's Day is upon us, Dr. Heath. Have you any ancient wisdom for those modern dads?
I actually have a surprise for your guests, for your viewers, for your listeners. It's actually kind of a surprise for me that I will share with your listeners in this black box. And so I'm going to do an MKB, Marcus Brownlee. I'm not Marcus Brownlee, I only wish, of a wonderful gift that I got from my son on a pre-Father's Day get-together yesterday. I'll just kind of show you the card just for kicks. This is the Dad's Golden Throne card, and it comes complete with the sound effects.
Oh, I can't
But
hear it.
That's not what we're here. It sounds like a toilet, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for this jewel, which is a book called The Enchiridion, written by this dude about 2,000 years ago. And here he is, none other than Epictetus, sitting at his desk with this, his walking stick, his crutch. And we're going to talk about him today. And because I raised my son on a steady diet of 2,000-year-old philosophy from Epictetus. And the first thing that I taught him was an opportunity I well remember. His mother had gone to Walmart. He did not want to be separated from her. He threw himself down on the parquet wood floor of the kitchen and started crying. And so I asked him if that's what he was going to do. Are you going to lay here and cry? And he said, yes. And I said, that's fine. I will be in the living room. When you're done, you can come and join me. And one of my favorite quotes from Epictetus is, it's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. And so what I was trying to do there, dads, is I was trying to show him that he's welcome to choose his behavior, but the behavior he chooses may have no effect on his getting what he wants. Throwing yourself down on the kitchen floor and crying only gets you dirty pants and red eyes. And so I raised him on that, and he learned that it is not things out there which decide our thinking and decide our mentality and decide our mindset, but what we decide to think. And so he began choosing healthier behaviors, not because I slapped him around, because we didn't do that, not because I yelled at him, but because I showed him that his behavior, that particular behavior, didn't get him what he wanted. And so it's not what happens to you, you don't get your way or something like that, but it's really how you decide to react to those things that really decides the course of your life.
There's a lot of people who react a lot differently. It's very emotional bringing up children, of course. It's very emotional experience being a child and the relationships you have with your parents too. So, I mean, it is always a maelstrom of feelings. What advice would you like to give to fathers about how to be a positive influence in their children's lives on a day like this?
Well, that's a fabulous question, because one thing I didn't do as a dad is I did not catastrophize or awfulize his emotions. I actually invited him to experience every single one of those. I've told the story of a very tragic incident where a friend of his died of a gunshot wound, and there's no way I could take that hurt away from him. And it would be unfair of me to do so, because I said to him, you're going to have to experience every single drop of those difficult emotions. And that's what's going to really carve your future. And indeed, that's what's made him very successful, is he learned that emotions are not our enemies. Emotions are normal. Emotions aren't just things for women. I watched him cry. I sat with him while he cried. He has seen me cry. He has sat with me as I've cried. and we've come to embrace that part of our humanity. But what we make decisions on are not the presence of emotions, but the direction of our thinking. And he's, in fact, done very good at that. And that's why this was such a meaningful gift to me, old Epictetus here, because it really cements how major a role men, older men, dads, teaching boys not what to think, but how to think. And so I didn't catch the fish for my son. I taught him how to fish for thoughts so that he would be a more effective thinker.
Yeah, and by the sounds of it, how to feel and process emotion in a natural way and accept that emotion exists as well, which is something I have to say my dad wasn't the best at. I only saw my dad cry a couple of times, but when that was so, you knew times were bad, because he was someone who used to be like, he would give the let's sup it up, take in your emotion and just hold it within. Is that something that you hear a lot from grown men, that's what their fathers were like, that their fathers thought they had to be this strong character that didn't cry, that didn't show emotion?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the worst ways to parent a child, is to ask them to give up part of the very humanity that the Creator engineered them to have. I often say to men, imagine the Creator looking over the banks of heaven or something, and they see that you're disturbed about something. They see a tear come down your cheek, and the Creator says, oh, what a screw up I am. Boy, did I flub that one up. Well, of course not. We're actually, as men, moreover, as humans, engineered to be able to experience emotions. It is up to men to teach boys and young men how normal that is. And it doesn't mean that you're less of a man. It doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It's really a matter of congruence. And so if you're struggling with something really, really difficult, I would view it as quite odd as a clinician, even disturbing, if you are not also experiencing some difficult emotions about that. But here's the other thing I want to bring out to your men. One of my favorite quotes for the men in the audience and for the women that love them. Old Epictetus would say, man is disturbed not by things, but by the views he takes of them. It is not things that disturb us, but how we decide to think about things that disturb us. And so what my son and I would do during the summer, we would get a book, and he actually got me a new copy of it, and I would recommend it. It's called The Art of Living. And I don't know where he got it. I'm sure it's your fine. Anybody that sells fine books, you can buy it there. There's lots of places. But we would pick a passage and take about 20 or 30 minutes once a day during the summer to read that. Now, I'm not saying that you all have to do that. But the point I'm making is that there are lessons that are caught. Sons are looking at us. They're seeing how we treat their mothers. They're seeing how we treat other people, and that's very powerful. That is one of the most powerful things. But some things can only be taught, and that is to take them by the hand like they are your apprentice, and indeed they are. Sons are a father's apprentice, and the job that we're teaching them is the job of life. And so I chose some key philosophers, Epictetus being one of those, Marcus Aurelius being the other. And then, of course, we spent a good time, and, I'm a believer in the good book, the scripture. But today we're talking about Epictetus. So teaching a kid character. Another saying that Epictetus had was, first, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Let me put that a different way. Character is not built in the moment. Character is built prior to the moment. It reveals itself in the moment. As life comes to you, you're revealing to the world who you have decided to be. And so one of the ways I raised my son is not telling him who he was, but inviting him to decide who he will be. And in that, all he has to do when he gets to a difficult situation, when he cannot change the situation, is this: how can I live up to who I've decided to be? And so every moment he was really taught that in every moment, he brings himself with himself to the situation. Fathers, teach your sons that they get to decide who they're going to be, and they can be anything. But no matter what, they will bring themselves with themselves to some of the most difficult situations in life, which brings me to my last saying that I'd like to share with your audience. Epictetus would say, no man is free who is not master of himself. So we spend so much time teaching young men how to get a job and how to make money and how to invest in the stock market. I think all those are wonderful ideas, but you will be master of nothing unless you're first master of yourself. And that comes with figuring out and understanding that it's not what happens to you that matters, but how you react to those things. That wealth, this another Epictetus saying, consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. We actually create misery the more things we want. And so a big focus of Epictetus is learning to find value not in getting more, but in just the simplest things that you do have. And then and only then will you truly be free.
Wow. Now that's left me thinking and let me wanted to reformulate a question I had for you, because I was going to ask, should a father's decision be the final decision or still be the final decision in the modern world? But then my thought is, shouldn't, if by what you're saying, shouldn't the son's decision of who he's going to be and how he's going to act be the final decision that the father takes?
Absolutely, absolutely. I tell parents all the time, instead of coming up with the best directives and being a good dictator, actually come up with better questions, come up with a better psychological shovel, and help your child dig down into their own thinking and really examine their own thinking. That's actually called metacognition, the skill at deciding how to think about what you think. Parents spend so much time telling that they don't spend enough time helping kids uncover what they're thinking and why they might think that, and then entertaining, even juggling different ways of thinking. It's not so much what you think, it's, well, my goodness, how have you come to decide to think that? Because kids really think very, very shallow and really don't have the capability for really deep thinking until they're, oh my goodness, in their late 20s, early 30s. But a good launch pad for that is early, teaching them the value to considering their own thinking. And they can't do that if a parent's always saying, no, 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 shame on you, don't think that. Oh, no, go ahead and think that, but let's discuss. So it's really much more of a conversational type parenting. And for a parent to do that, well, you have to make a space for that. You have to create space for those conversations to occur. And that is what Epictetus did with the young men that he mentored. He created a space for them to discover their own thinking.
And is that the same in a sense with Marcus Aurelius, giving logic to the young, and you then discussing and looking at from a more objective view of how your relationships are and how the situation is to better help your child get the understanding that they need to get through life?
Yeah, it's really all about self-discovery, which as a dad was one of my favorite things ever. And by the way, for men who have grown children, being a dad is not over when the child moves out. That's actually just the beginning of a new adventure. My son's in med school. He's 24 years old. He was over here last night, and we were still having conversations about him discovering himself. And one thing I'll leave your viewers with is one of my favorite things, and that is the saying of Epictetus. He said, he who laughs at himself never runs out of things to laugh at. And so it's okay to have fun and laugh at yourself. And my son and I, we do that all the time. He has permission to laugh at me. I have permission to laugh at him. We don't take each other all that seriously unless it's a very serious situation. One of my favorite stories of Epictetus is when one of his students came to him and said, so-and-so is insulting you, putting you down. And Epictetus simply laughed and said, well, if that man knew me better, he would come up with better insults. And so don't forget to laugh at yourself. And then no one can insult you.
That is brilliant.